Don't try to roll out of a rolling pin because you'll probably step on it and make a big mess. Now we've already prepped this room for painting, and if you want more information on that, see my video on prepping the room. Okay, but now we're ready to paint the ceiling. Alright, now the first thing we need to do is we need to cut the ceiling in all the way around against the walls, because the walls are going to be a different color. Ceiling's going to be white, walls are going to be blue. Okay? You always need to do your final brush stroke back into your wet edge. Okay, that's going to prevent you from getting start marks like that, especially if you're doing a color change, those can really show up. So the last thing you do before you move on to the next section, put your brush right there, go just like that back into your wet edge, and then you move on. Should point out here is that if we were doing the wall and the ceiling the same color, then we would need to be cutting down onto the wall about 4 inches. Okay, now we've got the room all cut in and it's time to roll. Alright, now the first thing is get everything out of the way because you're going to be looking up, craning, you don't want to be tripping over your stuff, alright? Now the next thing is you need to decide which direction you're going to roll the ceiling. Okay, the prevailing wisdom is you roll toward the primary source of natural light that's coming into the room, alright? If you roll perpendicular to that source of natural light, you might see a shadow where your roller lines are because it'll be coming right across them, alright? Now frankly, on a textured ceiling like this, it's probably not going to make a big difference. As long as I'm doing a nice, neat job of rolling. I'm going to roll this direction, okay? Now, here's the most important thing that I want you to remember about rolling a ceiling or rolling anything. Consists of 2 steps. Number 1, you got to roll the paint on, nice and thick. Alright? Don't worry about being too neat or too precise. Just get a good thick coat of paint on there, okay? Number 2, you got to go back to the beginning of that section and give it all one final smooth roller stroke all the way, okay? I call that laying it off. Okay, first you lay it on nice and thick, then you go back to the beginning of that section, and then you lay it off real smooth. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Now, one tricky part of a ceiling is you probably can't lay it on the whole ceiling and then go back to the beginning and smooth it out, okay, lay it off. Because it will start setting up on you back at the beginning. So you need to kind of chunk it up into little sections and lay it on and then lay it off as you go like that. And you always want to be keeping a wet edge as you go. That means you're never painting against anything that has dried, because if you are painting against something that's already dried, that's going to be essentially a second coat and you might see an overlap mark there, okay? Now before I do that, okay, I've got a new roller here and I need to get it nice and wet, alright? So I'm going to dip it in my 5-gallon bucket a whole bunch of times. And toward the beginning of the paint job, when your roller is still dry, you need to dip a lot more to get the paint really worked in there. It's very important. Okay, now I'm ready to start rolling the ceiling. Now, the techniques that I'm going to show you here in just this small section would apply the same way to any ceiling anywhere. I don't care how big it is, alright? You just need to remember a few key concepts. Now, for one thing, this ceiling is too wide for me to roll the whole thing in one stroke, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide it up into a right side and a left side, alright? Now what I'm going to do is first I'm going to go to the right side here and I'm going to lay it on real thick about 3-4 feet out, okay? Then I'm going to go back to the beginning and I'm going to lay it off 3-4 feet out, the section I just laid on. Then I go over here to the left side and I lay it on 3-4 feet out. Then I go back to the beginning and I lay it off, okay? And I move over here, and I do the next section. Then I move right here, and I do the next section. Okay, you want to keep it in manageable chunks like that. So like I said, like you're keeping a wet edge as you go. Okay, watch. Okay, like I said, keep dipping when you first start because you got to make sure you get a lot of paint on there. Now I go back to the beginning. Start right here in the middle, and this is a stroke where I smooth it out, also known as laying it off. Like that, real smooth, nice and easy. And then lay off your stroke toward the middle like that. Like that. Now by always laying it off toward the middle like that, I make sure I'm not going to get any start marks like that, which especially if you're doing a color change, those can really show up. Now my roller's starting to get a little wetter, which is nice. Okay, now I've got this little chunk laid on. Go back to the beginning.